The wait is finally over after a long off season, my friends. We are back. The 2024 NFL season is here, which means the 2024 edition of the Road to 272 Bets starts right now. If you aren't familiar, there are 272 NFL games in a regular season. I place a bet on all 272 of them. This is, of course, week one. I'm going to go through all 16 games this week. I will give you my best bet on a side, total, or moneyline underdog for all 16 games. I'll then wrap up the episode as I do on a weekly basis with just giving you which of these 16 picks are my 5 favorite. I will then give you a 6-point teaser, and then we'll close the show with my survivor pick for the week, which has a little bit of an interesting twist this time around because this year I'm running my own survivor pool. That's right, and you should sign up for that as soon as you can, because of course the deadline will be when kickoff starts on Thursday. So go over to splashsports.com/baconbets. The link will also be in the description of both the audio and the video version of this podcast. It is a $25 fee to enter. You can have up to 3 entries, and if we fill the pool, then the grand prize will be $6,750. So go ahead and sign up for that now. Like I said, the deadline is obviously kickoff on Thursday. $25 entry, almost $7,000 grand prize. And when it's full, it's full. So go ahead, splashsports.com/baconbets, or also you can find the link in the description, or also I've tweeted out this link a handful of times as well. So go ahead and join that survivor pool. Now, usually I tell you guys what my survivor pool pick is every week on this podcast. I guess I'm still going to do it. I'm going to obviously be competing in this Survivor League as well. You can either tail my pick and we can go down together. Or, I mean, if for, I hope this happens, I survive a long time in this league and I get close to the end, then maybe I'll have to keep my picks a secret in the final few weeks. But I'll at least start off with letting you know which pick will be mine. Also, I'll just give some general thoughts about some other popular picks for Survivor each week. But the main part of the show is, of course, the road to 272 bets, 272 games, 272 bets. This is my 5th season doing it. I'm just going to break down the rules I have for myself, and I guess I'll also just start with my record throughout the years. So I've done this 4 other seasons. This is my 5th season doing it. I have been profitable doing this 3 of the 4 seasons. 2020 I was profitable. That was when it was road to 256, because that was before week 18 got implemented. 2021, I had an unbelievable year in 2021. I don't know if I'll ever top it. I set the bar for myself. I finished the year up over 25 units. Then, of course, gambler giveth, gambler taketh away. Had a bad 2022. I finished about down 12 units and then a slight profit last year. I do want to state I'm not a professional gambler. I'm not betting a ridiculous amount of money on these plays. I do not make my living on my winnings. I do this for fun. In terms of, obviously professional bettor would not be betting on all 272 games. There are some strategies that I implement that certainly helps, but at the end of the day, I'm trying to see if I can bet on all 272 games and come out profitable. I like the grind of it. I like the roller coaster of it. Sundays are tough. When you have a bet on every single game in the early slate and you're watching Red Zone and one highlight you see goes your way, the next one goes against you, and it's a roller coaster of emotions. So whether or not you want to join all 272 picks with me, whether you want to tail my picks, make your own picks, just take a few of mine that you like, fade me every single play, no matter how you want to do it, in my opinion, sports betting should be fun. It is not a way to make money. Can you make money betting on sports? Yes, absolutely. But it is... and I think pro bettors would be the first ones to tell you that it is not an enjoyable experience. You have to, jump on opening lines the second they open. You have to have a million screens open at once. I know professional bettors who pee in jugs at their desk because they don't want to go to the bathroom and potentially miss an opening line somewhere or a bad line posted by a sports book. You have to really get down into the nitty-gritty if you want to make a long-term profit betting on sports to the point where you can live off that. So I don't recommend that for anyone. I recommend you do what I do, which is bet within your means, and it makes the games more exciting to watch. Whether that's $5, how you should know how much you should bet on a single game should be at the end of the game. If you lost the bet, you should be like, oh, darn, that sucks, and then forget about it within the next 5 minutes. If you're thinking about a lost bet, maybe a bad beat might be an exception, but if you're thinking about a lost bet longer than 5 minutes, you're probably betting too much. So you want to bet the perfect amount where it makes the game more exciting, but if you lose, you're not going to lose any sleep over it. So that could be $5 for someone, that could be $10 for someone else, that could be $100 for someone, that could be $1,000 for someone if you have a ton of money. Obviously, I'm not betting $1,000 a game. I'll tell you that right now. So my overall record through the first 4 years of betting on every single NFL regular season game sits at 549 wins, 503 losses, and 20 pushes for plus 22.9 units. That is a win percentage, I believe, of a little over 51%. I've had success betting on underdog money lines in the past, which is why 51% in this case is still up over 22 units. Especially my big season in 2021. That was a year where I hit a lot of big money line underdogs. Last year I did not. Still managed to scrape out a profit by the end of the season. But, it's a journey that we're all going to go on together, and I absolutely love it. Am I exhausted by week 18? Yes. But the goal is, as it is every single year, is to finish the year profitable. If I finish in the black, if I am not down money at the end of the season, even if that is half a unit that I'm up, I deem it a successful season. So we're going to try to do it again. We've done it 3 out of the 4 years. Let's try to do it a 5th year. And if I do lose, let's at least not lose 23 units, and then I'd be back to even for the 5-year journey. That would sting. So the rules. The rules I follow for the road to 272 bets. Rule number 1, I will place a bet on all 272 games. I don't get any mulligans. I don't get any, games I can pass up on. When you bet, 16 games a week, there's a couple that I don't love. There's a couple I wish I could pass on. A couple that I wish I didn't have to make a pick on. But then it wouldn't be the road to 272 bets. So I will place one bet on all 272 NFL regular season games. All bets will be a flat 1 unit bet. I know some people bet to win. So what that means is, for example, if you're betting on a minus, just a normal point spread, minus 110, some people would bet to win a unit, and some people bet a unit. So if it's to win a unit, they would bet, let's say if it's $100, $110 to win $100 if their unit size is $100. Other people will bet $100 to profit like $91.90 or whatever it is. I'm the latter. I will just do 1 unit bet on everything. If it's a big money line underdog, it's 1 unit. If it's a point spread, it's 1 unit. If it's a total, it's 1 unit. Doesn't matter my confidence. No 2-unit plays in the road to 272 bets. Every single bet is just a 1 flat unit play. All bets will be on a spread, total, or money line underdog. No money line favorites. That's a cop-out. If I like a favorite, I have to take the point spread. If I like the underdog, I can either take the point spread or I can take them on the money line, and then, of course, I can bet on the total. No first half, nothing, no prop bets, no first half, first quarter, nothing weird. This is as straightforward as possible. Full game, point spread, full game, total, or full game money line only if it's on the underdog. Speaking of money line underdogs, I must bet on at least 1 money line underdog each week to make it a little bit exciting. I have to pick at least 1 underdog I like to win outright. Now, some weeks that ends up being like a 2-point underdog that I like to win outright. Sometimes I like to get aggressive and, bet on even 6, 7-point underdog. But at least 1 play a week needs to be moneyline underdog bet. And all bets need to be placed at regulated sports books in the area that I live in. This year, just like last year, is in New York. So all my plays will be at regulated sports books in New York. So that will be FanDuel, Caesars, DraftKings, BetMGM are basically those 4 the ones that I'm sticking to. So most places, if you're in the United States and gambling is regulated, then you will have most of those. I mean, you'll probably almost absolutely have FanDuel and DraftKings. You'll probably have one of BetMGM or Caesars as well. If you live in a place like Ontario in Canada, you have a million regulated books. I will probably be living there someday. That'll be great. More books that you have access to, the more options you have for betting lines and more areas where you can pick out a bad line. I could go offshore and give you offshore lines and, bet online or Bovada. Not going to do that. I'm just going to stick for the sake of the road to 272. And I'm kind of, this is going to hurt me. I'm just going to stick to the regulated books in New York. And that is primarily FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, and Caesars. I know PointsBet, which is now, I think, Fanatics Sportsbook, I think is still up in New York. And I think Bet Rivers is. So I'm not going to be betting at Fanatics. I didn't like PointsBet, which is now Fanatics. Didn't like my experience with them. Not going to use them. Bet Rivers I have used in the past. None of my week 1 bets were Bet Rivers. I got to double check to make sure they're still live in New York. If they are, I will use Bet Rivers at times. But I'm mostly going to stick to FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, and BetMGM. If you want to track my plays, they're on BetStamp. You can follow me, BetStamp, Iain Mac Bets. I hide my plays during the NFL season to force you to listen to this content, or at the very least read my article on Sports Illustrated. But after the plays are finalized, you can then go back and verify that the lines that I gave you were correct, and they are all verified by BetStamp, which was actually the 6th rule. All my bets are tracked on BetStamp. Like I said, you won't see them until the games kick off. After the games kick off or after they're finished, you go to my BetStamp profile. You'll see that the plays I put in, you'll see when I placed the bet. You'll see that it was a verified number at the time by BetStamp. So I'm not making up lines. I'm not cheating lines or anything like that. The large majority of the weeks as well, I'll be placing the bets Monday during Monday Night Football for the next week. This week, I'm a few days later. I had to write week 1 of Road to 272 bets last week. So it was all prepared to go first thing Monday morning. But just a heads up, no real line movement actually from last week when I placed these bets. Very tiny line movement on 2 games, and then one did move a point. And I'll mention that when I get to that game. Other than that, that's pretty much it, my friends. This is the start of another long journey. My 5th year doing it. I can't believe it's already been 5 years. But yeah, let's get into it. Once again, though, join my Survivor League. splashsports.com/baconbets. Only $25 buy-in. You can do up to 3 entries. And if you win, as long as we fill out this league, which I'd really like to fill it out if we can, the winner will get $6,750, almost $7,000. It'll be our own little Bacon Bets podcast, Survivor League. And then at the end of the show, I will give you my 5 best bets for this week. Of the 16, I'll narrow down which are my favorite 5. I'll give you a 6-point teaser, which week 1 6-point teaser I love. And then I'll talk who I'm going to go with in Survivor. But I believe that's it. If you're not watching this on YouTube, if you're listening, go over to the Bacon Bets Podcast YouTube channel. Just subscribe to me there. Give the latest video a like. That helps me out. If you are listening to this on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your podcast, rate the podcast, leave it a review. That helps me out a ton. And as I briefly mentioned earlier, the written version of these picks will be up on Sports Illustrated, si.com/betting. If you don't have the time, if you just want to quickly scroll through and check out my picks and read a shortened version of my breakdown for each one, you can do it there. But then play the podcast in the background so I get to listen as well. That'd be nice. All right, let's get into it. Also, by the way, I did do a futures episode before this, my favorite future for all 32 teams. You can go check that out. I released that like a month ago. It's time, my friends. Gamble or bless. Gamble or bless this NFL season that is about to begin. Let's come out on the other side of this screen. Let's come out of the other side in 18 weeks, up money, happy, and then we'll be getting ready for the playoffs. The journey starts now, my friends. The road to 272 bets, week 1 edition, begins.
I'm not a state. I'm a monster.
No, Lisa. The only monster here is the gambling monster that has enslaved your mother. I call him Gambler, and it's time to snatch your mother from his neon claws.
All right, let's get into it. The first pick of the 2024 NFL season, as always, would go chronological, which means opening kickoff, Chiefs-Ravens, the first bet of the season. And I'm sad to announce this is going to be a boring bet as well. It's the opening kickoff. Everyone's going to be excited. I'm going to be excited. We get to finally watch some NFL regular season action, and I'm going to be betting the under. The least fun bet to cheer for. Ravens Chiefs under 46.5. I bet it at minus 105 is the juice. I bet that at FanDuel. I know it's not fun. Maybe, toss in some prop bets if you want to make the game a little bit more fun and you want to bet on more than just a game total under. But this is one of my favorite bets of the entire week. Let's not forget the Chiefs and the Ravens were the two best scoring defenses in the NFL last season. Ravens were first, Chiefs were second, both in opponent points per game and opponent points per play, both top 5 in opponent yards per play. I think we all remember how good the Ravens defense was, arguably the best, but the Chiefs, that was the best defensive season the Chiefs have had from what I remember, especially in the Mahomes era. Their defense was unbelievable. Now, both units have lost a couple players. L'Jarius Sneed, I know, is in Tennessee now, is the one off the top of my head for the Chiefs. But still, we're talking about the first game of the season. We're talking about two offenses, especially the Ravens in years past, who usually need a little bit of time to kind of get rolling. I remember last year the Ravens were winning games early in the season, but they were low-scoring games. Once their offense got rolling, then they just steamrolled just about everyone. But their defense, I remember week 1 against the Texans, I'm pretty sure it was like a 16-13 kind of final score. Chiefs also, similar boat. Chiefs usually need a little bit of time to get the ball rolling. They in the Mahomes era, haven't typically played their best football until the playoffs. So we have two offenses that I think, and I don't have the numbers to back it up. I'm just going off the top of my head for that. But two offenses that, as far as I remember, get off to their seasons a little slow. Two defenses that were two of the best in the NFL last season, especially in scoring defense. One thing I will say that I do have the numbers for is the Chiefs' red zone offense last year was a big issue for them during the regular season. They scored a touchdown on only 51.25% of red zone trips. That was the 14th lowest rate in the NFL last season. Totals are a big part of totals. One of my favorite stats for totals that I like to look at is red zone efficiency, because when teams get to the red zone, if they only kick a field goal and don't score a touchdown, that's a difference between 4 points, assuming they get the extra point. 7 points and 3 points. If you can't convert those red zone trips to touchdowns, you're gonna be converting a lot of unders. So, yeah. Two defenses that were the best in the league last year could very well be some of the best in the league again this year. Opening night jitters, big moment, 46.5, I think is a wildly high total, I think. I think we're getting like 2 points of value here. Now that might sound crazy, maybe a point and a half. I think there's plenty of value on the under there. Nobody's going to want to bet the under on this game, and maybe that has caused a little bit of inflation to the over. I'm going to take the under. Under 46.5 between the Ravens and Chiefs, minus 105 is my first bet for the road to 272 bets. It is not just Thursday night that we get a game. Friday night, we also get a game. It is the Eagles and the Packers playing in Brazil. Is that the best place for them to play? I don't know. If I was on the Packers or Eagles, I wouldn't be looking forward to the fact that week 1, I got to go all the way down to Brazil to play on a Friday night. Especially, I think there's a ton of wildfires going on in Brazil right now. I don't know what the air quality is going to be like. But regardless, it is a game between the Packers and the Eagles on a neutral field. And I'm going to take the Eagles in this one, minus 2.5. One of my biggest strategies for the opening week of the NFL season, because week 1 is obviously, I think the two toughest weeks to bet on the NFL is week 1 and week 18. Week 1, because we don't know these versions of all these teams. Every single team in the NFL has at least some roster turnover, coaching turnover. There's not a single team in the NFL that is putting out the exact same roster with the exact same coaches as last season. So we don't actually know. We don't have any information about these teams outside of what they did last year, outside of what the players on their teams have done in previous seasons. So one of my favorite strategies for opening week of the NFL season is to kind of fade the closing narrative from the previous season. Because this is a new year. These are new rosters. These are, in some cases, new coaching staffs. I think a dangerous thing that people can do, and do all the time, is they're evaluating these teams based on their most recent memory of these teams. And that can get you in a lot of trouble, and it's a reason why generally a lot in week 1 actually like a lot of underdogs, because it's the unknown. In an unknown, I'd rather take the team that's getting the points. In this situation, when you think of the Packers, you think of one of the hottest teams in the NFL in the second half last season, and you especially think of the blowout of the Dallas Cowboys in the big upset in the wild card round. So you have that memory of the Packers at the forefront of your mind. You don't remember the Packers from the first half of the season, which were, not consistent. I would be a nice way to put it. Now, I do think the Packers overall are going to take another step forward from a season-long perspective, but I think they're being overvalued, especially based on that playoff performance against the Cowboys. Then you think of the Eagles, and what do you think of the Eagles? You think of one of the greatest implosions of all time, a team that was, I think, 10-1 through 11 weeks, then I think went like 1-5 in their last 6 games or something like that, and then lost to the Buccaneers, the 9-8 Buccaneers in the first round. The Packers aren't as good as the lasting memory you have of them, and the Eagles aren't as bad as the lasting memory you have of them, especially because the Eagles, I think, fixed their issue, which was their coordinators. Their coordinators last year on both sides of the ball were horrific. They got new coordinators, especially on offense, Kellen Moore, which I'm interested to see what the Eagles do with him as their offensive coordinator. They also addressed the secondary issue, which was their biggest issue on defense. Brought back C.J. Gardner-Johnson, used their 2 top picks on cornerbacks, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. They, in my opinion, have fixed the issues that they had late last season. So I would encourage you to not evaluate this game based on what your lasting memory of these two teams are from last year. I think the Eagles from top to bottom are a significantly better team than the Packers. The Packers are still the youngest team in the NFL. The Eagles have a lot more experience. They have better skill position players. They have the better quarterback. I don't think Jordan Love is better than Jalen Hurts at this point in time. So I'm going to take the Eagles. -2.5, -118 at that, just underneath that key number of 3 of a field goal. I'll back the Eagles. I'm going to fade the lasting narrative from the 2023 season. Which then we move on to Sunday. And even though opening night's going to be fun, Friday night's going to be fun watching the Packers and the Eagles, the moment of the NFL season that I look forward to the most is my boy Scott Hansen on Red Zone. And he got the Red Zone countdown. And then we go to the Octo Box for the first time. Nothing gets me going like Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern when I see Scott Hansen on my screen. I tweeted this last week. I think Scott Hansen should be in the NFL Hall of Fame. I mean, Red Zone has become the greatest sporting channel of all time, program of all time. They copied it with the Olympics, and it worked extremely well in the Olympics. The Gold Zone. I don't know if you guys watched the Gold Zone. Scott Hansen did some of it too, and they, flip-flop between the most exciting events, and if there's a gold medal on the line, they showed it. Now, they've tried it in other sports. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in baseball. It certainly doesn't work in basketball. It doesn't work in hockey. It only works in games and events where there are, something's about to happen here, and so it's NFL and Olympics, and that might be it. But that being said, Sunday, Red Zone is the day, to me, is when week 1 starts. That is, to me, when the NFL season starts. Opening night and this season, Friday night in Brazil, are kind of appetizers. The real NFL season starts when I see Scott Hansen on my screen on Sunday. And one of the early afternoon games on Sunday, let's get this game out of the way, is my beloved Atlanta Falcons. I got my Falcons hat on. I got my Falcons hat behind me. I got a Kirk Cousins jersey hanging up next to me. I got my AJ Terrell jersey there. I'm ready. You can listen to the season preview podcast for my full thoughts about the Falcons. Now, I look at this line. The Falcons are now favored by 3. I think it was as low as 2.5. I got it -3, -105 at DraftKings. This is one of the ones that has moved slightly at DraftKings now, -3, -108. Obviously, still like it at that number, but I am going to take the Falcons. But I look at this, and this is a tough one because betting on any Falcons game is tough because they're going to be biased. I know too much about the Falcons to, I think, objectively bet on them. And historically, I haven't done well betting on Falcons games. Because I think sometimes paralysis by analysis, I think knowing too much information about a team can sometimes hurt you. So I'm curious where other bettors are leaning for the Falcons and Steelers. Because I look at the Falcons -3 against the Steelers at home. With Kirk Cousins, with a new coaching staff, Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator, beefed up defense with a couple of key signings and acquisitions late before the regular season. The skill position players they have, going up against their former coach. To me, this seems like the Falcons dominate this game. But yet the line's only 3. which means on neutral site they might be, I know it used to be home field is always 3 points. That has shifted. Neutral site, they'd be favored by like half a point, maybe a point. Am I missing something? Russell Wilson, with an offensive coordinator of Arthur Smith, is only a 3-point underdog in Atlanta? Why? I almost wanted to bet on the Steelers because if I think this line is so mispriced, like I think the Falcons should be 4.5, 5-point favorites. If I think this line is so mispriced, I'm missing something. Or I'm just blinded by my love for the Falcons and my optimism for this season. So maybe the move was to just bet the Steelers. But if I do that and the Falcons win and cover, then I'm going to feel like an idiot because then I'll be like, well, it was obvious because it was obvious. So I'm just gonna trust my team. I can't talk up my team all season and then week 1 bet against them. I can't do that. That'd be stupid. That'd be embarrassing as a Falcons fan. Steelers are one of the worst teams in the NFL last season. 26th in the NFL in net yards per play. You'll hear me say net yards per play a million times this season. It's my favorite baseline stat. The first thing I look at every week is the yards gained per play on offense, subtract the yards given up per play on defense. The Steelers were 26th in the NFL in net yards per play last season. They did little to improve the roster. Russell Wilson being the quarterback certainly doesn't make me think they're a better team. But the thing I'm nervous about is Mike Tomlin, because Mike Tomlin, year after year after year after year, drags the Steelers team to more wins than they deserve. Does he do that? And he's been especially dangerous in week 1, not last year. I think week 1 they got destroyed by San Francisco, but they have kind of been dangerous in week 1 and dangerous as underdogs. His betting record as an underdog is unbelievable. So this looks like a classic Mike Tomlin drags his team to an undeserving victory again. That's possible. With that being said, I can't look past how much better the Falcons roster looks on paper. And they're at home. I'll lay the 3 points at -105. Vikings, Giants, NFC battle here. Rematch of the playoffs from 2 years ago when the Giants ended up beating them. I will take the Vikings -1, -110 on the road against the Giants here. I would have liked this bet a lot better if J.J. McCarthy was the starter. Sam Darnold is now the starter. I am not a Sam Darnold guy. I am interested to see what he does because last year people were in my mentions he should have been starting in San Francisco. People were telling me in my mentions, and I have receipts. I will show them. If Sam Darnold's a bum this year, if Sam Darnold's fantastic, I will not be showing those tweets. If Sam Darnold's a bum, and you tweeted at me last year telling me you should have started over Brock Purdy, I'm tweeting about you. With that being said, the Giants are one of the worst teams in the NFL this season. Also, I have a beef with Giants fans. I follow a lot of Giants fans on Twitter. I live in New York. I know a lot of Giants fans. Stop acting like you're a tortured franchise. I know the last few years haven't been good to you. I understand that. But you have 2 Super Bowls in the past 2 decades. 2007, what was the other one? 2011? I wish I had 2 Super Bowls. You can't just because you've had a few bad seasons be like, oh, this is what it's like being a Giants fan. Nothing but pain. That's all I know as a Giants fan is pain. That's not true. You have 2 Super Bowls since 2007. Must be nice to have a championship. Must be nice to have a championship DVD you can go back and watch. One of them being one of the greatest Super Bowl wins of all time. One of the greatest highlights from one of the greatest games of all time against an undefeated Patriots team and Tom Brady. Both of them were against Tom Brady. One was an undefeated Tom Brady. Do you know what I would give to have 2 Falcons championships against Tom Brady? One beating the Patriots when they're undefeated? Get out of here with the tortured franchise stuff. You gotta not win a Super Bowl for over 20 years before you can talk about it being a tortured franchise. Enough of that. And I'm seeing it every year. I've seen it more and more from Giants fans as if you guys don't have championships you can look back on. So I'm starting to get pissed at Giants fans. I'm taking the Vikings in this game, -1. They're the better team. The Giants dead last in the NFL in net yards per play last season. They did little to improve the roster. Yes, they drafted Malik Neighbors. They overpaid for Brian Burns. That was disgusting. They need a significant overhaul of this team. And I am not going to trust in the Giants whatsoever while Daniel Jones is their quarterback. He's a bum. Then there's the Vikings, who, yes, I'm not a Sam Darnold guy, but they have a lot of pieces. Justin Jefferson, I interviewed him last week, by the way. Check that out. That'll come out, I think, the opening day. I think the 5th. I think the interview with Justin Jefferson's going to come out. Nice guy. But they have one of the best receivers in the NFL. I like their signing of Aaron Jones. Their defense is fine. Not great, not bad, fine. I just think overall the Vikings are a better team from top to bottom. I think they're going to be a little bit of a tricky team for some teams to play. I'm going to take a -1 on the road against the Giants in week 1. Moving on to the Jaguars and the Dolphins. Another total bet, unfortunately, another under bet. I'm being a real downer with some of these bets in week 1. It is, I think, the highest total of week 1. Let me see if I can verify that. It is at 49.5 is what I got of that, which is still available. Under 49.5 for Jaguars, Dolphins at -108. And that is the 49.5. Cardinals, Bills, 48. Texans, Colts is pretty high too. Yeah, this is, oh no, Rams Lions is 51. 50 or 51.5 Rams Lions. Ooh. So yeah, so second highest total of week 1 is Jaguars Dolphins, and I'm going to take the under. I understand the Dolphins have one of, if not the most explosive offense in the NFL. I know the Jaguars, they can, if they're playing well, if Trevor Lawrence is playing well, they can put up a ton of points. But I think both teams have improved significantly defensively, more than what people are saying. Jaguars re-signed Josh Allen, formerly Josh Allen, the artist formerly known as Josh Allen, now known as Joshua Hines Allen, Foy Olokun. They also signed Eric Armstead and Darnell Savage. Eric Armstead, one of the least talked about free agent pickups this offseason. Dolphins. I love what the Dolphins did on defense. Calais Campbell, Jordan Brooks, Jordan Poyer, Kendall Fuller, Shaq Barrett. I really like these. I mean, not signings that are going to jump off the page at you, but good depth veterans who are going to make their defense significantly better than they were last year. So that's what this bet is based on. Two defenses who I think have improved more than the market recognizes and the public perception of them. Are there points going to be scored in this game? Yes. 49.5, a point too high. I'll take the under between the Jaguars and the Dolphins. Patriots and Bengals. Another one here that I'm going to go a little contrarian. I think a lot of people are going to like the Bengals in this one. But that's based off a lot of assumptions, my friends. When we think the Patriots are going to be bad and the worst team in the NFL, which I also agree with, I bet on them to have the worst record, that is still based on a lot of assumptions. This is a different Patriots team from last year. Different quarterback, different coach. Will they be that bad? Maybe. But to lay 9.5 points in week 1 when all we have is assumptions to go off of is a bold move. 9.5 is a big spread. And not only that, I'm not high on the Bengals. Bengals were 28th in the NFL in net yards per play, and don't give me that, Joe Burrow was hurt crap. They were 5-5 when Joe Burrow went down for the season. Their defense is still horrific. They didn't improve at safety. They signed Von Bell and Geno Stone. But improving your safeties is not enough to make me think this is going to go from the worst defense to the best defense. Because yes, they did rank dead last in the NFL in opponent yards per play. They gave up 6 yards per snap. I think the Bengals get overvalued because of Joe Burrow, because of the Super Bowl runs. They were 5-5 with Joe Burrow last year. That's not that impressive. Are they a better team than the Patriots? Absolutely. 9.5 points better in week 1? That's too much for me, my friends. I will take the points with the Patriots. It's going to be an ugly bet, but I'll take the points. Cardinals and Bills. We're starting a string of underdog bets here. I'm going to take the Cardinals +6, -110 against the Bills. Kind of a similar bet here with the other one, where we're kind of assuming the Cardinals are going to be bad. I think the Cardinals are going to be better than people might think. And also, I think the Bills, with their roster turnover, I think they'll be all right. I think they're going to get off to a little bit of a slow start. Their top receivers are rookie Keon Coleman. Their defense had some issues. They lost some key pieces on defense, especially in the secondary. The Cardinals defense is going to struggle as well, but I mean, their offense is going to be feisty. Kyler Murray, James Conner, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr. This could be a game to bet the over on. I wouldn't hate the over on this game, but I still don't necessarily trust the Bills offense either. So with the spread being 6, I think that's a little high for a week 1 game between two teams that I'm not fully sure what we're going to get from either of them this season. I will take the points and hope for the best. Texans, Colts, another, this is going to be a similar strategy. Fading a team that I think is being overvalued based on how our perception of them finished last season. So I'm going to go against the Texans, who are 2.5-point favorites in Indianapolis. I'll take the Colts plus 2.5 and minus 108. Last season, I forget the player's name, but the Colts running back who dropped the fourth down pass. That drop started a domino effect that has now led to where we are right now. If he doesn't drop that pass, if he catches that wide open pass, walks in for a touchdown, the Colts win that game. And then because the Jaguars lose to the Titans the next day, because this was a Saturday night game, Sunday Titans, or the Jaguars lost to the Titans, the Colts win the AFC South. CJ Stroud doesn't beat the Browns in the playoffs. And I think our opinion of both of these teams are completely different. I don't think we would value the Texans as high, and I think we would value the Colts a lot higher. But because he dropped that pass, CJ Stroud and the Texans won the AFC South, went on and beat the Browns in the playoffs. Everyone's calling the Texans being a dark horse in the AFC. Everyone's expecting them to take a significant step forward this season, and they have made some very good offseason moves. I will give them that, and I'm not going to say the Texans are going to be a bad team, but we're talking about value and where the value is. Betting line in a Week 1 game. The Colts almost won the AFC South with Gardner Minshew last year. Now Anthony Richardson is back. We still don't fully know what we get with Anthony Richardson, but the fact they almost won the AFC South last year tells me they have a good coach and they have a good core of players. I love Michael Pittman. They have some decent players on defense. They're at home. I will take the 2.5 with the Colts. I'm fading the Texans until they live up to the expectations everyone has set for them. Once again, I don't think those expectations would be as high if that one Colts player did not drop that one pass on fourth down in Week 18. So I'll take the Colts plus 2.5 minus 108. Next up, I think we got two. This is the last game and then the break, I think. And what a fitting way to go into the break here, because we have the first Moneyline Underdog Alert of the season. Moneyline Underdog Alert. Moneyline Underdog Alert. I need to get a soundboard, and I need to hit that soundboard for Moneyline Underdog Alert. My first Moneyline Underdog pick of the season. It is at plus 175. I'm betting on a team to win outright, a team that is a 4.5-point underdog. I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans plus 175 to beat the Chicago Bears. If this game took place in Week 10, probably actually laying the points with the Bears. My biggest issue with the Bears, and if you listen to the preseason preview podcast, you know I'm not as high on them as some people are. I still think they'll be improved from last year. But my biggest issue with them, and why I actually think they will end up missing the playoffs, is I think they're going to have a slow start to the season. The amount of new pieces... It's hard enough to get rolling, to get off to a fast start to a season as an offense. The amount of new pieces on this offense is going to now make that 10 times more difficult. The reason why it's so hard to really get off to a strong start to an NFL season as an offense, because offense is all timing. Offense is communication, it's timing, it's being able to, as a unit, understand the defense that they're seeing in front of them. It's, being able to gel quarterbacks and receivers, all those things. You need time. You need to play with that core of players for a significant amount of time to build that. Outside of DJ Moore, this is a brand new offense. You got two rookies in Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, who were in college last year. You have DeAndre Swift, who is in Philadelphia. You have Keenan Allen, who is in Los Angeles. And then you have DJ Moore. Cole Kmet, too, to be fair, I guess, was in Chicago. But you have the running back, you have the quarterback, you have two of your top three receivers are brand new to Chicago, brand new to this offense. And I think the offensive coordinator is new too. So even the guys who are already there, you're now making them teach and you're making them learn a new scheme, teaching them a new scheme. That'll be fine as the season goes on. That's going to be tough in Week 1. Meanwhile, you have the Titans, who I think quietly might have had the best offseason in the NFL. They're not going to be a competitor this year. They still, especially on offense, have a lot of things to figure out. But defensively, watch out for the Titans' defenses here. L'Jarius Sneed from the Chiefs signed Chidobe Awuzie. They got Lloyd Cushenberry, the center from... Was he on the Lions last year? Why am I blanking on Lloyd Cushenberry, what team he was on? He's a center. You got Calvin Ridley. Lloyd Cushenberry. Denver. He was on Denver last year. Calvin Ridley at receiver. They made some nice moves. Tennessee is going to be feisty. Now, I would have liked it if Mike Vrabel was still there because I think Mike Vrabel is a fantastic head coach. We'll see what the new guy is going to do. But still, this roster I think is improved. And I think the Bears are going to need a little bit of time to kind of hit their stride, especially offensively. So I'm going to take a shot on the Titans to win outright in week 1 at plus 75. I believe that is 8 games, so I think we're halfway through. I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be back to break down the second half of week 1 action. All right, let's keep things going. We're now going to go to the NFC South to start off the second half of the show here. It is New Orleans against the Carolina Panthers, and I will lay the points with the Saints at home. It's a 4-point spread, Saints -4. I don't have really much to say about this game whatsoever. My opinion about both these teams are actually exactly what they were at the end of last season, whereas other teams, I'm trying to evaluate them a little bit differently. I don't know how different we can evaluate both these teams. Bryce Young, I'm not a believer in Bryce Young whatsoever. The Saints, once again, same as last year, look very good on paper. Can the Saints now kind of live up to that potential? I don't necessarily know because I think it's kind of Dennis Allen's fault. But, I mean, Derek Carr in a system for a second straight year should be able to see some improvements. And on paper, in my opinion, the Saints are just the much better team. That's really all I can say. Until the Panthers show me that they're a competent football team, I'm just going to assume they stink. 4-point spread's a little too short. It's a little surprising to me that the Patriots are 9.5-point underdogs in Cincinnati and the Panthers are only 4-point underdogs in New Orleans. Do you want to say the Bengals are better than the Saints? Sure, I wouldn't argue with that. But are the Bengals? If we think the 2 worst teams in the NFL this season are the Panthers and the Patriots, if they're on an even level, do you think the Bengals are 5.5 points better than the Saints? I don't think so. Would Saints and Bengals on a neutral site be Bengals -5.5? I don't think. Saints should be favored. I think they should be favored by more. Bengals should be favored. I don't think they should be favored by quite as much. So in this case, where Patriots-Bengals, I'm taking the Patriots with 9.5 points. This one, I actually am going to back the favorite. Saints -4. Because I do think it's kind of 2 comparable games. You have the 2 worst teams in the NFL on the road against a team that's better than them. I think the Saints should be favored by more. I'll take the Saints in the NFC South. Raiders-Chargers. This is the one that the line has moved significantly from where I bet it when I wrote this article and locked in the picks on Thursday or Friday. It is the Raiders against the Chargers. I am taking the under once again, my third of 3 unders this season. I got it at 42.5 at -110. That line has since moved down to 41.5 at -115. That was at FanDuel. So not only did we see it go down a point, but also the juice has moved from -110 to -115. Let me see if I can see where the best place to bet it is now. BetMGM has 41.5 at -110 at least. Caesars 41 flat at -110. DraftKings 41.5 -112. So of the regulated books, the best place to bet this as of recording this late on Sunday night is BetMGM. I would probably still bet it at 41.5 -110. If it goes down to 41 even or 40.5, then I might just take the points with the Raiders with it being at over a field goal. But right now, I'd probably still take the under. I think both these teams are going to be significantly better defensively than offensively this season. We saw how good the Raiders defense became when Antonio Pierce took over as a head coach last season. Top 10 defense. They also sneakily might have made the best free agent signing of the entire offseason, Christian Wilkins, adding him to a defensive line with Max Crosby. Ooh, their defensive line is going to be nasty this year. And then their offense, who knows, with Gardner Minshew. So Raiders already, and I think we can all agree there. Defense much better than the offense. The Chargers, obviously, they have Justin Herbert. He can sling it. You know, they got some pieces on offense, but at the end of the day, I think the area where Jim Harbaugh can make an immediate impact on this team is the defense. That's what won him the national championship at Michigan. That's what, where he made his name. At the college level was defense. He had great defenses when he was the head coach in San Francisco. So I think if we're talking offense or defense for the Chargers, which one's going to get off to at least the better start to the season? I think it's a defense. So two teams who I think their defense will be significantly better than their offenses, especially in week 1. I will take the under. I got it at 42.5 -110. Broncos and Seahawks. I'll take the Broncos plus 5.5, minus 105 in Seattle. I don't know if I mentioned this on the NFL season preview episode of this podcast. I did mention it on Stacking the Box as well, which, by the way, if you want to hear me talk NFL without it being all about betting, Stacking the Box podcast, Mondays live, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, recapping the previous day's action. Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, previewing the upcoming week's action. Myself and Sterling Holmes, we talk NFL, and it's not just betting. I think on that episode last week or the week before, I finally came out as a Bo Nix believer. I've been in the closet being a Bo Nix believer for a while now. Even when he was at college, everyone was trashing Bo Nix. Not a huge college guy myself, but I watched Bo Nix enough to be like, I actually kind of like Bo Nix. In the draft, everyone is like, Bo Nix is like the laughingstock. I wouldn't be shocked if he's one of the better quarterbacks in this draft. I know Sean Payton likes him. He might be me and Sean Payton might be the only guys who believe in Bo Nix. Now, the preseason was the preseason, but the Broncos offense looked fantastic. I don't think they scored fewer than like 27 points in a game in the preseason. Bo Nix looked great. He won the starting job easily. So now it's time for me to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to believe in Bo Nix in week 1, which is a crazy thing for me to say. I also took Cortland Sutton in a couple of fantasy drafts. I'm kind of invested in the Broncos this year, which scares the hell out of me. But yeah, I like Bo Nix. And I don't think there are very few teams I think the Seahawks should be 5.5 point favorites against. Maybe the Panthers, and I think the Broncos are better than the Panthers. Maybe the Patriots. No, I don't even know if they should be 5.5 points. Seahawks are the definition of average. Last year, they were the definition of average. Are they going to be better this year? I don't know. I think they might be worse. Like, Seahawks should be favored against teams, but a 5.5 point spread, especially in week 1, I will take the points with Denver plus 5.5 at minus 105. Commanders, Broncos, I almost laid the points with the Buccaneers. I almost laid the points with the Buccaneers. I think they're 3-point favorites. Instead, if you like to root for points, this is the game I think you do it on. Commanders, Buccaneers, over 43.5 at minus 110. In my opinion, that is a very low total for two teams who do not have good defenses. When you think of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for some reason, well, no, it's not for some reason, historically, especially even recently when they won their Super Bowl, very good defense. Last year, not that good. 22nd in opponent yards per play last year was the Buccaneers defense. And then there's the Commanders, who were second last in the NFL in opponent yards per play. Only the Bengals were worse in opponent yards per play last season than the Commanders. So I'm not a believer in either defense. I actually like the Buccaneers offense. I think Baker Mayfield's going to take a step forward, playing the same scheme 2 years in a row. Obviously, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen MacMillan, I think is his first name. I think it's Jalen MacMillan, is going to be an interesting third option at wideout for them. I think the Buccaneers offense is going to be pretty solid this season. I'm curious to see what happens with Jaden Daniels. Obviously, betting on any game involving a rookie quarterback, whether you believe in him, don't believe in him, think he's going to score points, think it's going to lead to an under. It's always questionable in week 1. I think at the end of the day, Jaden Daniels will lead to points. Now, will those points go to the Buccaneers because he just threw an interception in his own red zone? Possibly. Will he kind of be electric and rush for a couple touchdowns and throw for a couple more touchdowns? Possibly. I think 43.5 is too low. In a game where I don't believe in either defense, I mean, we were just talking about the Chargers-Raiders, where I bet the under 42.5. Sorry, 42.5. With two defenses who are very good, this is only 1 point higher, and it's two defenses that weren't that good last season. I'll take the under. I mean the over. The over. Over 43.5 minus 110 against the Commies and the Bucks. Cowboys, Browns. When the week 1 lines first got released, the one that jumped out to me was Cowboys. I think at that time it was even like +1, +1.5. It is now ballooned to the Browns -2.5, Cowboys +2.5. My initial reaction was Cowboys is the easiest bet in week 1. But there's one key thing that makes me nervous for that. And that's the fact the Browns are at home. I'll take the Browns -2.5. I think it was Stacking the Box. I talked about this. I don't know if I did on the NFL preview show as well. But I got my eye on you, Cleveland Browns. There's something sketchy going on that nobody else has talked about so far, but I'm on to them. And if this season goes the same way as last season does, people might start talking. Last season, on their home field, the Browns defense allowed just 3.7 yards per snap last season. The fewest in the NFL by 0.8 yards, almost a full yard less than the next best defense. On the road, they allowed 5.8 yards per snap. That means the Browns allowed 2.1 more yards per snap on the road than at home. Per play. There's a lot of plays that happen on defense in an NFL game, and especially throughout the course of the season. How did their defense allow 2.1 more yards per snap on the road than compared to at home? What are they doing at home? Do they just get a better sleep? Are they out partying when they're on the road and their defense sucks? Was their schedule that much difference between the opponents they played, both at home and on the road last season? Something sketchy's going on in Cleveland. There might be some banging on some trash cans tomfoolery going on in Cleveland when they're at home. Maybe. I'm just saying, I've been following football. I've been betting on football for a long time. I've never seen a defense be that different from on their home field compared to on the road. Which is why with this game, in week 1, the fact they're 2.5-point home favorites to the Cowboys who have gone 12-5 3 straight seasons, I think I got to lay the points with the Browns. Even though I don't believe in their quarterback, even though Nick Chubb isn't healthy yet. If that defense allows 3.7 yards per snap, they're winning this game and they're covering the spread. So I just want you Cleveland fans, I'm watching you. Just know that I'm watching you this season. And if this happens again, 2.1 yards fewer per snap, I'm gonna go public with it. Let me look at the per game numbers, because that was per snap. Opponent yards per game, Cleveland last year, 215.9 at home, 334 on the road. I'm going to take out a quick calculator here because I'm not going to do that math in my head. 334 minus 215.9. They allowed 118 fewer yards at home than on the road last season. More than an entire length of a football field. Something's going on in Cleveland. And until I'm proven otherwise, I will be taking advantage of that fact that I know, and I will be betting on the Browns anytime they're at home. Now, if their defense plays terrible in week 1, then I'm going to switch things off. But for right now, I think I just need to blindly bet the Browns at home and bet against them on the road. Until proven otherwise. Browns minus 2.5 against the Cowboys. Maybe I should have bet the under, now that I think about it. What's the total for that game? Total for that game is 42. Yeah, I'll take the Browns. Rams, Lions, this is now Sunday Night Football, or did I skip a game? Oh, I skipped a game somewhere, I think. No, maybe I didn't. Rams, Lions, Sunday Night Football. I will take the Rams plus 3.5. This is the exact same game we saw in the wild card round last year. This is in Detroit. Rams, Lions, same point spread last year. I took their money line in the wild card round. They ended up not winning, but they did cover the spread. This time I'm just going to take the spread. I'm not huge on the Lions this season. They're 11th in the NFL in net yards per play last season, behind the Rams, who came in at 8th. Los Angeles also improved on defense. I know they lost Aaron Donald. Last year's version of Aaron Donald is not the best we've ever seen. So even though, obviously it'd be better if they had Aaron Donald, I'm not writing them off just because they lost him. They signed Tre'Davious White, got Darius Williams. They made some decent moves on defense. Lions, until the metrics back up the public perception of them, I'm not ready. I think the market's a little high on them. So I'll take the Rams plus 3.5 on Sunday Night Football. And then that brings me to Monday Night Football, the Jets, the 49ers. Jets played Monday Night Football last year. Aaron Rodgers played 4 snaps, but they still ended up winning in overtime. I will take the 49ers this time, though. Minus 3.5. For all the same reasons I've talked about the Jets. People forget the 3 throws that Aaron Rodgers threw last year before he got hurt did not look good. Season before that in Green Bay did not look good. Torn Achilles coming back. There's reports he's kind of a selfish player. There's turmoil in the locker room. You can't have that in week 1. You got to be all synced up. He missed minicamp. Even if Aaron Rodgers is going to be good this season, I don't think it's going to happen in week 1. This might be his worst start of the season. 49ers new defensive coordinator. That's going to be huge for them. Their defense coordinator from last year stunk. Lost in the Super Bowl, some would say. Very high on the 49ers. Very low on the Jets. This is a no-brainer for me. 49ers minus 3.5. Yeah, no-brainer. I'm not high on Aaron Rodgers. I wouldn't even be surprised, and I wouldn't wish this because I wouldn't wish anyone to get hurt. I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt in this game and doesn't return. Yeah, those are all the games. All right, I'm just going to quickly recap them, and then I'll give you my top 5 picks, and we'll talk Survivor and a teaser that I absolutely love. But really quick, let's just recap the plays here. I got Ravens Chiefs under 46.5, minus 105 on opening night. I got Eagles minus 2.5, minus 118 against the Packers. I got Falcons minus 3, minus 105 against the Steelers. Vikings minus 1 against the Giants. Jaguars Dolphins under 49.5, minus 108. Patriots plus 9.5 against the Bengals. Cardinals plus 6 against the Bills. Colts plus 2.5 against the Texans. Titans money line. They are my upset of the week, plus 175 on the money line against the Bears. Saints minus 4 against the Panthers. Raiders Chargers under 42.5. It is now 41.5. I still like it at that number. Broncos plus 5.5, minus 105 against the Seahawks. Commanders Buccaneers over 43.5, minus 110. Browns minus 2.5 against the Cowboys. Rams plus 3.5 against the Lions, and then the 49ers minus 3.5 on Monday Night Football against the Jets. My top 5 favorite picks for week 1. Ravens Chiefs under 46.5 on opening night. Falcons minus 3 against the Steelers. Broncos plus 5.5 against the Seahawks. Rams plus 3.5 against the Lions, and then 49ers minus 3.5 against the Jets. That might be my favorite bet of the week, 49ers against the Jets. 6-point teaser. We're going underdogs for the 6-point teaser. We're going to take the Colts from plus 2.5 up to plus 8.5 against the Texans. As you should know if you have looked into teasers at all, and maybe you haven't listened to this podcast, but teasers are all about crossing key numbers. You get 6 points. You want to cross key numbers. The 2 biggest key numbers are 3 and 7. Secondary key numbers are 10 and I think 6 is it. And 6 is the other one because that's a touchdown and no extra point or 2 field goals. But the main ones are 3 and 7. Taking the Colts from 2.5 to plus 8.5 with 6 points is crossing both plus 3 and plus 7. That's great. And then the Titans, we're going to go from plus 4.5 against the Bears up to plus 10.5. That crosses the key numbers of 6, 7, and 10. So the teaser is Colts plus 8.5 against Texans, Titans plus 10.5 against the Bears, if you want a little 6-point teaser play. And I did pretty well with those last season. Survivor. So let's talk Survivor. And once again, you should join my Survivor League, $25 buy-in. Grand prize is $6,750 if we can fill it. You can have up to 3 entries. Splashsports.com/baconbets. That is splashsports.com/baconbets. Or you can check out the link in the description of this video or the audio version of this podcast. The obvious call for this is actually an extremely difficult week 1 because week 1 we already don't know enough, and now you got to try to pick a Survivor pick. You have one game that's the obvious one, which is the biggest spread, which is 9.5 Bengals over Patriots. Now, if you're in a smaller Survivor League, one that you do with maybe your friends, probably just go with the Bengals and live to fight another day. If you're in a big Survivor League, I would actually recommend not picking the Bengals. because there is an opportunity, because the large majority of people are going to pick the Bengals, I would assume. It's week 1. Generally in week 1, you want a safe pick. The next closest spread is 5.5. Other than that, you have a ton of 3s, 3.5s, 2.5s. A lot of people are going to take the safe bet in the Bengals. If you don't go the Bengals, and then the Patriots manage to somehow beat the Bengals, that's going to knock off a majority of the pool in 1 week. So I would rather personally take a risk, take a different team, cheer like hell for the Patriots in week 1. And if that happens and the Patriots beat them, you're sitting pretty. And why I say you should do that for a bigger pool, because the bigger pool, you kind of have to be a little bit more strategic. You have to be on the right side of some obvious big bet teams losing. The team I'm going to pick for week 1 in Survivor, for our Survivor League, the official Bacon Bets podcast Survivor League, is going to be the Saints. Do with that information what you will. Join me. Go down with a ship if the Panthers win. Go against me. Take the Panthers. Take a different game entirely. But there are not many teams I'm going to take the Saints against. I know it's divisional, but I think week 1 divisional is a little less sketchy. Divisional, to me, divisional matchups get a little bit more sketchy when it's the second time they play in a season, because then they've had a game against each other. They now know each other very well. Week 1 divisional doesn't have the same, mystery to it. There's not many teams I would want to take the Saints against. It's probably the Panthers at home might be it. Let me quickly bring up the Saints schedule. So we obviously save the good teams. We take it to, we're not going to miss this, we're not going to miss having the Saints later in the season. I mean, you could take the Saints in October at home against the Broncos. At home to the Commanders late in the season. At the Giants late in the season. Other than that, this, I think, is the best time to take the Saints. It's a 4.5 point spread, so it's the tied, I think, for the third largest spread. The Bears and the Saints are both at 4.5, third largest spread. It's going to be a little contrarian. You're not going to take the Bengals. You're going to cheer for the Patriots. Tied for the fourth largest spread, because the Bills and the Seahawks are both 5.5. I think that's the play for week 1. I don't hate the Buccaneers. I've seen some people going to go with the Buccaneers week 1. I don't hate that for contrarian pick, 3.5 point home favorites, but it's just the mystery of a rookie quarterback. How good Jaden Daniels might come out and have, Cam Newton-esque opening day. And if that's the case, it's not going to be good if you have the Buccaneers. I'm selling in the Saints. I'm going to go with the Saints for our Survivor League. Actually, I have 2 entries. I put in 2 entries. The other one, who knows who I'm going to go with. That one's going to be my mystery one. That's a good way to do it. I'll let you know I'm going to let you know each week my team for one of my entries. My second entry, it's going to be a mystery. So there you have it. That's the show, my friends. I think that's everything. The road to 272 bets. It's a fun one. Week 1. I'm pumped. I can't wait. I'm not going to be able to sleep at all this week. I can't wait, especially to see my beautiful boy Scott Hansen on my screen. That countdown for the red zone. I want to see the Octobox. Give me the Octobox. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. We had a long season ahead of us. I think, and I know I brought this up in the preview show, I think I'm going to do a prop podcast as well, record on Wednesday nights. We'll see this Wednesday if I have the time and ability and motivation to do it. So you might get a player prop episode from me. Because I don't think player props are posted yet, are they? Maybe they are for week 1. Yeah, they are for week 1. So I might do that Wednesday night. Regardless, at the very least, you'll hear from me next week. Please like this video on YouTube. Please subscribe to my channel. Let's get up to 500 subscribers this season on YouTube. I know the YouTube part of it is new. Got to build it there. So if you are a faithful audio listener, go over and just give me a little subscribe on the YouTube channel, Bacon Bets, like the video, rate and review the podcast, all that good stuff. Thank you all so much for listening. Gamble or bless. May gamble or bless our NFL seasons. Best of luck, whether you decide to tail me, fade me, make your own picks. Good luck regardless. And I'll talk to you next week for week 2. What a ride. Let's go. The road to 272 bets starts now.